The irony of the atheist position here is evident. My atheist friends, and I have many of them, tell me that the driving force of evolution, which eventually produced our human cognitive faculties, reason included, was not primarily concerned with truth at all.
What you're about to watch is a complete and total shutdown of atheism by an Oxford expert. You don't want to miss this. John Lennox, a scientist, mathematician, and Christian apologist, presents a compelling case for the compatibility of faith and reason.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not ashamed of being both a scientist and a Christian, because arguably Christianity gave my subject. What I am amazed at is that serious thinkers today continue to ask us to choose between God and science.
To emphasize this point, he cites evidence from early scientists who believed in God. This definitely wasn't what the atheists wanted to hear.
Alan Sandage, the brilliant cosmologist who became a Christian in his 50s, said God is the answer to that question. But people are now so desperate to show that the universe created itself from nothing, which seems to me to be an immediate oxymoron.
Lennox didn't stop there. He also extends this argument with a perfect analogy.
That's like asking people to choose between Henry Ford and engineering as an explanation of the motor car. When Newton discovered his law of gravity, he didn't say, I've got a law, I don't need God. No, he wrote the Principia Mathematica, arguably the greatest work in the whole history of science.
This was nothing compared to what he is going to say next.
If I say X created Y, I'm assuming the existence of X to explain the existence of Y. If I say X created X, I'm assuming the existence of X to explain the existence of X, which simply shows that nonsense remains nonsense even if high-powered scientists utter it.
It wasn't enough to dispel the opposition's theory. Lennox also offers an alternative explanation about the origins of the universe.
I take it this house believes in reason. That's why we're all here. And as a scientist, I believe that the universe is rationally intelligible. Einstein said the only incomprehensible thing about the universe is that it's comprehensible.
This is a direct attack on the claim that the human mind exists as a result of unguided natural processes. This is a claim that creates a fundamental problem.
Their biology and their belief in naturalism would therefore appear to be at war with each other in a conflict that has nothing at all to do with God.
This is how Lennox frames the inconsistency.
That it is rational for them to believe that the evolution of human reason was not directed for the purpose of discovering truth. And yet, it is irrational for me to believe that human reason was designed and created by God to enable us to understand and believe the truth.
On the other hand, this is how Lennox proposes the affirmative position.
Biblical theism asserts that ultimate reality is personal and intelligent, and the reason science works is that the universe out there and the human mind in here that does the science are ultimately the product of the same intelligent divine mind.
And just like that, Lennox's alternative to counter this inconsistency completely demolishes the other side.
Human beings are made, we are told, in God's image, and that means that science can be done. That makes infinitely more sense to me as a scientist than atheism does.
The next target comes in the question of morality.
Now let me come briefly to ethics. Ethical behavior, like rational behavior, of course, does not itself require religious belief. This is consistent with the fact that humans are created in God's image as rational moral persons.
Now this is how Lennox lays the groundwork for his attack.
But just as I suggest that rationality cannot be explained without the existence of God, so I dare to suggest that the existence of morality cannot be explained either. As modern science sprang from Judeo-Christian sources, so did the concept of human equality.
Lennox also explores the implications of atheism on morality by citing atheist philosopher Jürgen Habermas.
He said that universalistic egalitarianism, from which sprang the ideals of freedom and a collective life and solidarity, the individual morality of conscience, human rights and democracy, is the direct legacy of the Judaic ethic of justice and the Christian ethic of love.
Bringing his argument to a human level, Lennox recounts a conversation with a Russian scientist.
I never forget speaking on one of my many visits to Russia to a colleague in the Academy of Sciences.
The question of God's influence on morality is also expanded upon by another notable Russian mind.
And Alexander Solzhenitsyn has said, if I'm asked, why is it that 60 million of my fellow countrymen were sacrificed? He said, the answer is, we have forgotten God.
This moral argument is a powerful critique of secular ethics. For Lennox, the most definitive argument for the existence and nature of God is found in one name:
the restoration of the fractured relationship with God through the salvation he has brought through Jesus Christ. A radical relationship that empowers us to live ethically from God.
Of course, Lennox knows this argument hinges on the existence of Jesus Christ, and this is how he presents it.
If Jesus rose from the dead, death is not the end and atheism is false. If Jesus did not rise from the dead, Christianity is false.
To support the historical existence of Christ, he references legal scholar Sir Norman Anderson.
A brilliant lawyer, and he said at the end of it, the empty tomb then of Jesus forms a veritable rock on which all rationalistic theories of the resurrection dash themselves in vain.
The resurrection remains a matter of faith, but Lennox presents it as a rational belief supported by historical inquiry.
And so I don't simply believe there is a God. I've come to know him and trust him, and I have strong reasons for doing so, because of Christ dying and rising again for me. And that has generated in me a sense of utterly unmerited forgiveness, acceptance, and peace.
One of the most difficult objections to belief in God is the problem of evil. Lennox does not dismiss this challenge.
The hardest problem I face as a Christian is the problem of evil and pain. My niece getting a tumor at 22 that kills her. What do I say to my sister?
But Lennox swiftly turns the table.
And this is the hardest problem we face. But it seems to me that atheism here has no answer, because by definition, atheism believes that human death is the end, so there is no ultimate hope.
While this response may not answer the question of evil, Lennox simply shifts the focus back to where God has already acted decisively in history.
If it is actually true that Jesus is, as I believe him to be, the Son of God, then we can ask the question, what is God doing on a cross? And the answer comes back at the very least. God has not remained distant from our human suffering, but has become part of it.
His approach is particularly effective in reframing the debate. Rather than merely defending theism, he turns the burden of proof onto atheism.
Atheism has no ultimate hope of justice by definition. The vast majority of people in the history of the world have died without justice and will die without justice. And if death is the end, then of course they have no hope of ultimate justice.
This is how Dr. John Lennox closes his argument.
But the promise in the New Testament, guaranteed by the resurrection of Jesus, is that he is to be the judge in the coming day. So, ladies and gentlemen, those are some of the reasons why I believe that God is real and worthy to be trusted. Thank you.
Ultimately, his case for God is not built on blind faith, but on a foundation of rational inquiry, one that, in his view, leads inevitably to the person of Jesus Christ. If you enjoyed watching this video, subscribe to the channel.